We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to another episode here on the Hearts of Men podcast. I am one of your co-hosts for tonight, the Uncle Junior. I am joined by none other than son of Timothy, the available man, and Mr. Dr. Coach Dwayne Dwyer, certified coach and speaker, aka the Mindset Coach. So before we get started, I'm going to tell you like this. I didn't check in with these great gentlemen behind the stage. I got tied up into my phone. I was trying to do something. I didn't hear them, yada, yada, yada. So with that being said, gentlemen, how are you guys doing this evening? How was your week? All those good things like that. What is going on with you, gentlemen?
Man, I'm doing well. Not too much going on this week, but it ends off the same way, having a great conversation with my brothers on Friday evening, so I can't complain. Can't complain.
Word up.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Great week. A lot of moving parts this week. Contract changeover. So that's kind of like what I was dealing with. But all is well. All is well. It's Friday night, like Gaddy said. Highlight of my week. One of the things I always look forward to, holding conversation with my brothers, and again the live chat and social media. So yeah, all is well. How about you?
Man. Same, man. Everything good. I spent a couple of days out in the hot sun with track practice. Track practice today. We had an event at school, so I was out there all day. And then yesterday we had a track meet, so I was out there for that. So just a lot of heat. And it was some nice hot 80-something degree weather days this week. So definitely had to continue to hydrate and all those things like that. But I'm like y'all, man. Happy Friday. Glad to be here. Another week in the bag, 7 days. So with that being said, it's also the conversation, 7 things just killing your relationship. So, but before we get started with that, we also want to address every single person that is here with us this afternoon, because we understand that Friday evening, it is 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you guys could be doing a whole bunch of other things. So we definitely appreciate everybody for checking in with us, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you may be. Thank you for being here. And if you're here on YouTube or wherever you at, go ahead and hit that like button, share this conversation with somebody so they may be able to cash in on all the good things that we are going to learn here this afternoon. And share. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Crystal Everett, we definitely appreciate you for being here this afternoon. How are you? The rebirth of Nick D, thank you for being here. RBN Brower, thank you for being here. His Divine Appointment, thank you for being here. Crystal Everett, I think I saw you again. I just want to make sure. Yes, it's Maya. You're here. Did I miss anybody? If I did miss anybody, I definitely apologize. Didn't mean to, but I'm over here looking at my screen. I think I got anybody. But if I missed you on a different platform or someone else's platform, shout out to you. Also, shout out to Shale8231. Babe, thank you for being here this afternoon. Definitely appreciate you for tuning in and tapping in with us this afternoon. So we almost 6 minutes in right now, and all I've been doing is yapping. So, gentlemen, what saith you before we carry on and move on with tonight's conversation? nothing. Coach got nothing. Gaddy got nothing. All right, so we ain't got to hear about none of them Giants in the draft. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen,
I mean, you brought it up, so we might as well. I'm joking.
oh man, so we just gonna get started off tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's conversation is seven things killing your relationship that no one warns you about. So I don't have a monologue tonight, but as we're talking tonight, I just want to let everybody know that we're talking about all different types of conversation. I mean, all different types of relationships. Whether we're talking about your spouse, whether you're talking about a girlfriend, a boyfriend, talking about kids, talking about coworkers, all different types of relationships. So nothing is off the table. We may specify certain things depending on how we want to navigate our talking point, but as of right now, we're talking about all different types of relationships. So, first definition of the evening is the relationship. So, right now, what we're trying to do is trying to set the conversation, set the baseline for the conversation. And that's for anybody who may this may be your first time joining us. Just kind of, again, set the baseline for the conversation. So, gentlemen, relationship, a connection between people that involves ongoing interaction, shared experiences, and mutual influence. What saith you on this conversation? Definition. They're okay with it. And
I
again,
rock with it.
gentlemen, just let you know, this is only one definition. There's different definitions, but this is the definition we're going to use for this conversation. All right. The next one is awareness. So awareness is the ability to notice, understand, and recognize what's happening internally and externally. All right, we rolling with this one. We getting some norths and souths. And the next question is this: expectation, a belief about how something should be, often shaped by past experiences or assumptions. And while we're right here, and we're going through definitions, this is the last one, but I do want to open up a poll for this evening. This is just a short one. We're gonna have two different polls this evening. And the first one is, let me see, can you see it? Oh no, man, I got it. So the first poll of the night is this: do you think most relationship issues start small and go unnoticed? Just keep it at that. That's just going to be the first poll for this afternoon. Now, I'm playing with this. Is the first time I use this widget over here. So hopefully when we go to the question, it won't kick it off, will it? I guess we'll find out here in a minute. All right, here we go. All right, so the first question up for this evening is the opening question. This is for the panel and the chat. So feel free to put in your comment in the chat so we can look at it. If you have a question at any time during the show, feel free to type it in and we will get to it. So the opening question is: when you think about relationships over time, what are some things people assume will just work themselves out?
Communication.
Communication. Ooh, Coach jumped right on it, right off the rip.
Just want to throw that out there. Communication. I'm gonna stop right there.
Communication. Okay, and he gonna stop right there with just communication.
Or he just gonna throw that out there and stop.
I know, right? Everybody in the chat like, yo.
Right. You know what I mean? Like he said us in a heartbeat. Say more. You know what I mean?
Hey man, I'm just saying. I hit my buzzer. I didn't hear it over here, but I hit the buzzer.
Hit
I
the
want to be
buzzer.
the first. I want to be the first on the board.
There you go.
But yeah, communication. I think
communication for 200. There you go.
Yeah, I think most people believe they know how to communicate. Is a gross misunderstanding in that regard. Most people believe they know how to communicate until, yeah, it was loud. They think they know how to communicate until they come across somebody who actually knows how to communicate. Then they get frustrated in communication efforts. And then they feel as though they have to exert a whole lot of energy just to communicate with that person. So communication in regard can create a degree of frustration. So I think one of the biggest ones, and I just want to name one for right now, is communication. Not necessarily understanding what it is, the purpose of it, what is the expected outcome of communication efforts. Some people just like to talk just to hear themselves talk, and a lot of people aren't wired like that. And I can't speak for everybody else. When I find myself getting bored in the communication, I'll be like, all right, then I got this. I'm about to go and walk my goldfish. I'm gonna have to holler at you a little bit later. Stuff like that.
Yep.
And I get it. I get it. No one ever placed it on you to where you had to think about what you need to say before saying it. So that can be problematic within a relationship as well.
Right. I'm near with the communication piece. If I could dig a little deeper on that one, I think it's the the context, the context of communication, right? I think the problem is more so that we believe that we don't have to communicate about everything, that there are some things. And so I think everything that I was going to list as you were talking, coach, I was just thinking in my mind, like, hey, it's all related to communication, but it's just, further down the road, right? Just you're talking about the communication piece. I'm talking about the elements of communication. Why don't we talk about more seriously the differences in our upbringings, our different spiritual ideologies, and we all know we say don't be unequally yoked, but we think that mean everybody but us, right? Because I can make this work. I can make this. We can see past this, and we can go. But what about if one of y'all get serious about what you believe? Then how does that affect the way your house is ran? You know, how does that affect the way you see each other living their lives? Because what if we're in two different religions that opposes each other's views, right? But I don't think we have these conversations enough, and so I think further on down the line, they come to a head, because we never articulate it. We just think it's going to work itself out.
I may be tiptoeing in the same area that you are, Gaddy, but I don't know. Um, but I kind of think maybe I am, but I'm going with it anyway. So when you think about relationships over time, what's some things people assume would just work themselves out? And I think maybe what you were saying is their relationship. I think, and that was me, especially my first marriage. I just got together and I was like, well, relationship just going to work itself out. Like, this is just part of it. Everything is just part of it. This is just how it is. I don't need to make any adjustments. I don't need to read any books. I don't need to learn anything. This is all just part of the relationship. And this is just the way it is. So at some point, and I believe that people often think that, when they think about just the relationship, they just think that the relationship itself is just going to work out just because. And what a lot of people who get into relationships often find out after a certain amount of time is that it requires work and requires effort and it requires both people's buy-in towards the ultimate towards the same goal. So I think, maybe Gaddy was talking about this. I definitely got the communication piece from Coach, but I definitely think that, when you're talking about relationships, sometimes it's the relationship itself. People just assume that it's going to work itself out. So, anything else y'all got before I jump into this, the poll?
Sure. I had another one.
Mhm.
Another one would be roles.
Rose.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
yes.
Roles is a big one. Um,
Mm.
some people have preconceived notions about what someone else is supposed to do. Um, you know, and I think a lot of times they don't necessarily take responsibility for what they are responsible for doing. And so my expectation for what they're doing, and not necessarily recognizing what I am supposed to be doing or what I'm responsible for, I become overcritical of their ability to do according to my expectations of how it is supposed to be done, as opposed to becoming more hyper aware about what it is I'm supposed to be doing and allowing that to be my driving force behind this relationship as it all. Then you factor on the communication efforts on top of that. So now I'm confused about roles. We didn't necessarily have an honest conversation in the beginning so that we can understand what roles in this relationship look like, and then my inability to communicate or articulate myself to such a degree that I am coming across clearly. I'm more of an emotional wreck as opposed to being a clear, articulate speaker in the space of relationship. Now we just compound a problem and it just exacerbates over time.
Mm. I'm looking at the I'm gonna vote. So I'm gonna vote. I voted one. I'm interested to see how you guys want to vote on this poll. So do you think, and I know we use the word most, but for whatever reason, that's just the word I decided to use, right? So, and I know we can't really talk about most, but for this conversation, I use the word most. But so do you gentlemen think that most relationship issues start small and go unnoticed?
I voted one, but I would say, like, just in the, because you talked about the wording and not just the wording of most, but he said, I don't think is that the issues, I believe they start small, but I don't think they always go unnoticed. They go ignored. It's kind of the conversation we're already having. I think, and it's because listening to you brothers talk, I think it's because in totality, we think we live in the moment of infatuation, and we think that that moment will last forever, and we ignore some of the things, and we hear it talked about all the time. We say, when do if a dude look good, a woman ignore a lot of things on her list, and if a female look good enough, a man ignore a lot of the red flags or things on his list, and they just rock because we get stuck in that infatuation mode, whatever the thing is that drew you into that infatuation, and we think we call that love, and we'll say as long as we got love and we got each other, we're going to be all right. I mean, it sounds good in theory, but we still have to address these things. That's just how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. So I'm the oddball. I'm the one that voted no. Um, I think what ends up happening is that the honeymoon stage have people walking around with beer goggles on. So
Mm.
when you're in the honeymoon stage, you see things and you just don't say anything about it. Once you go beyond the honeymoon stage and you guys start to get a little bit more comfortable about it, then you start articulating those things. It's not that they didn't go unnoticed in the beginning. It's just that you were in the honeymoon stage during that particular point in time, and you was just like, I don't want to bring that up. I don't want to kill the mood. I don't want to, create a bad environment, whatever the case may be. But then all it takes is that once we cross that threshold, now one person starts where they start seeing something, then the other person starts seeing something, and so forth and so on. So I don't think relationship issues, because that's what we're talking about. I don't think relationship issues start small. I think they start, period. Whether we perceive them to be big or small, as that snowball starts to roll downhill, it's going to get big over time. So relationship issues start. We notice them because we don't like them. The issue is that we don't say anything about it when we first notice it. And then it becomes a norm, a practice behavior over time. And then once you finally say something about it, the other person is like, well, I've been doing this for quite, all this time. Why are you just now saying something? So that's why I answer no.
Okay. I like it. I ain't got no qualms with it. I can definitely see the hesitancy, especially when with everything you said, and then in addition to the unnoticed piece, like Gaddy was alluding to or kind of sharing with, because I think a lot of times, like you said, we see these things. It's not like we don't see them, but like you said, we got on those beer goggles, and sometimes we seeing, but we seeing with the goggles on. So cloudy things are just a little cloudy for us. So definitely appreciate everybody who jumped in on the poll. We're going to slide over to the next question. We are going to get to another poll later on. So feel free to come back and add to the conversation then as well. So if anybody at this time, if anybody's checked in on YouTube or any of these different platforms, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out. Shout out to you. Next question is going to be a scenario. So this next scenario, it's kind of vanilla, it's kind of bland on purpose. As I was coming up with the question, I kind of got stuck. I couldn't figure out a good specific question that I wanted to nail, because we're talking about all different types of relationships. I kind of left it like this a little bit and kind of see what you guys would come up with. So here's the scenario. Two people have been together for a while. Again, it's very gray. These two people could be whoever. Two people have been together for a while. There's no major conflict, but conversations have become shorter and certain topics just don't come up anymore. What are your thoughts, questions? And again, we're referring this scenario back to the topic of the show, which is 7 things killing your relationship that nobody warns you about. So, gentlemen, what saith you on this scenario?
I have a lot of questions.
Okay. Well, it's up to you to come up with your own questions and then answer them. Because this is all you're
Right.
getting.
Right. You know, so we ain't got no major conflict, but conversations, that means it's silent conflict going on somewhere. My conversations get short with you is because I don't like you. Right. I don't like there's something about your conversation, your presence, something has got me to a point where I really don't like you at this moment. And I can't, and instead of saying I can't stand being around you, I just make conversations short, assuming that's making things feel a little less awkward because at least I talked. I just didn't talk as much as I usually do, right? That means that there's something brewing on the inside. So my question is like, what are the unsaid things? There's so much that is unsaid that needs to be said that is causing tension, and we don't know whose side that is on. It may be on both sides, right? And and sometimes we never really know what the root is because there's so much time can go past without communication that we lost sight of where the root issue is. I think this is what caused a lot of these, I'm not going to get too messy, but causes a lot of these separations, because and it goes back, like we talked about. That's why I said I didn't disagree with the communication piece. I just felt like it was further down the road, like it was communication in the process of because I believe things, just kind of what you're alluding to here, it unravels with time. It started here with poor communication, but because we didn't talk about these things and I didn't address these things early, or I let these things go, or I had the fog glasses on that they give you when they want you to see what it feels like driving drunk, right? It means you're making bad decisions, right? Along the way. But the repercussions along in time comes with issues that we no longer even remember how they became issues. We don't know what the root is, and we wonder why we can't fix them. Because I don't know where to start. Because I don't know where. I just know that I don't like that you doing this, and I'm not saying I haven't said anything, but it's bothering me, and I'm treating you bad because it's bothering me. But then when I bring it up, you may flip around and say, "But remember, you started doing this. That's why I started adjusting how I behave towards you." Blah blah blah. Because I thought this. Now we're like, well, where does it start? We don't know what to focus on. And the fire has gotten so large, we're just trying to put some water on it so we can catch a breath.
Okay, so you more speaking from a relationship between like a man and a woman, like a husband and wife or something, boyfriend, girlfriend.
But I think this can go in any aspect of conversations that shorten. It's because it's just, I don't think it's just yesterday you made me mad. I think it's time has come along and things have been left unsettled or unmentioned, and this is where it led to.
Okay.
My initial thought, somebody lying.
Somebody lying.
I'm just saying. So
when you're talking about the no major conflict piece,
I mean,
it's all of it.
Just pretty much the articulation of the statement, right?
Ooh, somebody lying.
What do we mean? What do we mean? What is a while? Some people a while could be 6 months. Some people a while could be 6 years. So a while, even though it's a vague, era of time, it matters, right? There's no major conflict, but lie. That's the first lie. There's no major conflict, but conversation is short. If conversation is short, there's a major conflict. And certain topics just don't come up anymore. There's a reason why those certain topics don't come up anymore. I would venture to say it's probably because We believe that there was no major conflict because we didn't necessarily talk it through to come to some type of resolution of the conflict. Therefore, now at this particular stage, we decided to shorten our responses, shorten our conversations, simply because we're still stewing over this quote unquote no major conflict.
I like both of those. I like the lie piece. There was something that I didn't see coming at all. I kind of saw Gaddy's, saw that one. That seems like one that, that's kind of where I thought about initially. Then I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But yeah, definitely see both sides of that. Um I think if I was to look at this from, I also looked at it from a point of view of like how I was like, and I specifically thought about my second deployment, right? So, and I'm talking about two people have been together a while. So when I was talking about two people, I'm talking about like me and my chew mate, or like my coworkers, more so like my coworkers and people I went to work with on a daily basis, 15 months every day, day in and day out, Greyhounds Day, right? And we was together for 15 months. And again, there I don't know, but there was no major conflict. But after a while, after 9 months, 10 months, like I just don't want to have long conversations no more. I just don't want to talk about certain stuff no more because we've talked about it, or I've already realized that you have your stance on it and I have mine, or whatever. So I get, coach, but I'm wondering in this situation when I'm talking about like friends, or not even friends, co-workers and stuff like that. What do y'all think about that piece of it? You know what I mean? Just like sometimes it's just the relationship is not a big deal. Could that be you know what I mean?
Was it a
Like,
big deal before?
no, it was always just been people I work with. Just I
Then
don't
then
know
it
for
wasn't
me, but
then it's a working relationship.
working relationship.
I think a lot of times we confuse working relationships with
Yeah.
intimate relationships,
Mhm.
and a lot of times we go to work and we seek to create intimate relationships at work, and then
Yeah.
we feel some type of way when they don't materialize that way, or a lot of times, again, we lose sight of the reason why this relationship exists is because of the working environment.
Yep.
And sometimes we just kind of get into a funk, if you will.
Yeah.
And largely, it's probably not because of the working relationship. It's probably because I'm unfulfilled with the working relationship.
Yeah.
Again, my
I mean,
internal expectations of this relationship. Go ahead, get it.
Yeah.
but so just to play advocate for a minute, all right? If I work with you every day, 8 hours a day, overtime every now and then, I see you more than I see some of my family, most of my family, really. And so now the question is, how long have we been working together? I've been on the job for 10 years, but you just started a year or two ago. It ain't that deep, right? But we've been on this job together for 7, 10 years. This I think there is an unspoken level of intimacy there, like not in the romantic level of intimacy, right? But there, like we've been locked in. We work in the same space. We, we take up the same air every day for eight to 12 hours a day every day. I think it is serious, and it is important that we have, because I spend too much time with you. I don't care what the relationship is, but if I have an issue with you and I have to see you that much, I think it becomes a lot on the person holding it in.
Okay, I'll raise you that one. I see that one. I'll raise you this one. What if all we do is talk about work? I never talk to you about, your family life, what goes on at home, your spouse name, your kid's name, what y'all do outside of work. What if our entire conversation is rooted around the accomplishment of our job? Then the level of intimacy now is stagnated by our job, which is not wrong, by the way, because that's the reason why the relationship exists in the first place. I think a lot of times, especially in this world where we look at introversion as the new hotness. I think we think it's cool to be quiet, shy, do my work, eat my little cheese crackers, take my smoke break, whatever the case may be, and don't necessarily interact with people.
So I hear you. I guess what my only trouble is going to be is it's hard to maintain that long term. Like if that's why the length of how long we've been working together matters to me. Like so,
I need
and
you to come here.
I'll be transparent. I'm gonna stay right here. Right. So I met one like that on the job. Had a supervisor that was like that. Didn't like too much of he liked enough to be extrovert enough that he don't seem too standoffish, but it's enough that he seems too standoffish, if that makes sense. Uh, and the more you try to open up with him, when you think, oh, he's open, we could be friends, you open up too much with him, he'll shut it down, right? This type of person he is. About 3 years into working together, all of them, he couldn't maintain that. You're too tough for the environment, bro. Like the environment eventually broke him. I'm not trying to say anything bad about the person, but in my experience, that didn't sustain long term, and so that's why my focus was the start of like how long we've been in the same space together working. Because if this work relationship is only a couple of years, I get it. But if we've been on the job together for a while, and I guess being military, a lot of us are used to 3-4 years. I'll holler at you later. I see you on the flip side. But as a civilian now, I've been looking at some of the same faces. I'm like,
But so
one of us got to move.
so again, I think we're not disagreeing on the concept that working relationships can turn into intimate relationship. I don't think we're disagreeing on that
Right.
notion. I think where the disconnect may be is that you're looking at it through your lens because you're probably a people person. And being in a supervisor position, you are skilled at talking at people, breaking the ice and getting to know them better. But when you got a pure introvert that comes to work and all they care about is their job and even if they're a supervisor, yeah, all they care about the stats, the numbers, whatever the case may be, and them talking about anything outside of that feels awkward. Like, yeah, nobody's gonna want to connect with that cat. It's like, hey man, what y'all doing? Y'all go to lunch? We're not going to lunch. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like how you tell them. And then when they walk in, like, let's go, let's sneak out the back door. Like you don't want to be around that person because that person is strange. They're odd. They don't know how to connect with people. And I
Right.
think there is the issue. There is the rub to a person who is like even for a person who is a people person. We don't want to connect with everybody. It's like, yeah, I'm getting a strange vibe from this one right here. I'm gonna go this way. But it's pretty obvious. But yeah. But again, to your point, the difference between a working relationship and intimate relationships where intentionality exists, there's a huge difference.
I like all of that. I like all of that. Those are really good. I like that. Um, we're gonna continue on with the conversation, but before we do, we're gonna pause and we're gonna hit a couple of these questions. So we had a couple of questions from the chat. Thank you, Miss Robin Brower, for your question, and thank you, Miss Queen V, for your question. The first one we're going to hit is we're going to hit Miss Robin Brower's question. The question is: isn't it common for long-term relationships to become a stale phase or maybe in a stale phase? What do you say, gentlemen?
Um, get it, I'll jump out there first, man. Um, I think the idea of it being common is the struggle for me, right?
Yeah.
Um, do we see it? Sure. Have we witnessed it? Sure. Common, common for who? That's the great separator for me because like I don't see stale phase being a common feat for people who are intentional about relationship, right? For people who are um, who know how to build and nurture a relationship. I think stale happens when there are competing interests in relationship and manipulation isn't happening. or manipulation used to happen and now it no longer happens. So it's like the flair doesn't exist anymore, and the glitz and the glamour and the fame doesn't exist anymore. So now it's almost like you're just existing in space and collaborating and cohabitating with one another. So I'm not necessarily locked in on the common for a long-term relationship. I know 70-year-old couples right now still walk through the mall holding hands, been married for 50 years. Um, Now, I haven't been around them the entire 50 years, so did they ever hit a stale phase? I'm not sure. I can't speak on that. I find it hard to believe that they ever did, looking at the way they interact with one another right now.
I'll,
Yeah,
go ahead.
my bad. I'm about to say, yeah, I think where the struggle is with this one is in our modern era, I don't think we see too many of those relationships any longer. Those grandparents are and those great grandparents are passing away. And we're just not staying married that long no more. Right. So I get where you coming from, coach, because I would have to agree. But hard part is I don't see too many of them. Well, I'm seeing a lot of 20, 23-year-old marriages going to court to divorce. Like, don't nobody want y'all no more. What y'all doing? I'm sorry, let me not say that. But I'm being funny, but for real, at 20 something years, you tailor made yourself for that person at this point. I
Right.
really don't understand what we're doing, but that's our reality. So, mm, if so, is that now the state that where people are calling it quits just because it got stale for a moment? And I don't know if it's common, but I can see how it can happen because I do understand that in the process of life. I think me, coach, and Roland argued about this statement once in Bible study. In the process of time, that that term, but in the due to the process of time, we change, we grow, we evolve, and it was kind of my point in the beginning. Are we growing together? Did we have these conversations about our upbringing differences, about our religious differences, or whatever differences we have that got us going like this? We're both growing, we're both learning, we're both getting educated, we're both growing in our careers, but it's causing us to do this because we've never really talked about what our life looks like together. We just we and it's still this thing is still so popular today to where we have this idea that we can be autonomous and together. I believe that to be an oxymoron. You can't have an autonomous uh, lifestyle and be together at the same time, right? There has to be a unifying effort somewhere in this relationship. So I'm kind of there with Coach, but
But see, even to your point, that's why I don't believe you see a lot of staleness. Because what ends up happening is that when people get to the point where it's not going the way they go, the way they want it to go, they start arguing, bickering, fussing, and fighting. And then the next phase after arguing, bickering, fussing, and fighting because they're not skilled at conflict resolution is annulment, ending, go their separate ways, hatred, whatever that looks like. Even for married couples, they don't exist in a stale phase until they get to the point of trying to figure it out. At work, we call it, we call ourselves the Fitfo King. If y'all can figure what Fitfo means, and you got it, FITFO, right? They figure it out. But outside of the ability to figure it out, they they leave. They go do something else. They divorce one another. They say, I can do bad all by myself. That's why I say I don't believe the stale phase exists because at the end of the day, they don't necessarily take the time to figure it out.
Hmm. I think I want to give a totally different perspective. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking on the same thing. So I'm thinking. So first, I had to kind of get an understanding of my interpretation of what I mean by stale is, and I kind of thought about bread. Well, you take stale bread, well, it's still good, it's still edible, and if you don't have to throw it out, you can, just like the relationship, or you can make croutons. I don't know. But I guess when it comes to the long-term relationship, I think it's if I'm thinking of stale, I'm thinking of it just being a moment. So I'm with Coach when he talks about, is it common, literally right here, is it common for long-term relationships become a stale phase? I'm with Coach on that. My other thought process is to focus on the stale phase, and I don't necessarily think the ones that become a stale phase, I think to what you guys are talking about, those relationships end. But I think if we are talking about a stale phase that I'm kind of talking about, probably something similar, I see that as a time that in but a time and space as you are in a long-term relationship, this may be a time to where things, and when I'm looking at stale, I'm looking at just kind of like bland, just kind of blah. We still locked in, we still connected, but we may be in a space to whereas things have gotten complacent because we got kids and we got work and we got all of these different things going on, so we're just maybe in a little small stale phase. Don't mean we love each other, but I think that those things are common as you escalate or as you evolve through a relationship for 10, 12, 15, 20 years. I think that that's just parts of the ebbs and flows of the relationship as you go through that journey called marriage or relationship. So to the stale thing, I think that when those things become stale and you stay in that stale phase, to what you guys were saying, I think the relationship event ends up dissolving itself. But I think if you're looking at long-term relationships, I don't know about the word common, but I do believe that we hear about relationships that go through phases, ups and downs. And if this is just one of those phases, then I would say that it was common, maybe. But at the same time, all of the other things I said and you guys said. So
Can I
what
say
do
one
y'all
more
think?
thing before?
Yeah.
Because you said something, and as you were talking, my wheels spin. If we get to a point to where it's just stale, right? Just because it's stale, because we it sounds like we don't have a routine to make sure that we having that time together. So why can't we synchronize our prayer time? At
Yeah, but
least
I
our
think
morning.
sometimes we just don't know it. I think sometimes we don't know where we're in that stale phase because we're locked into everything. And but to your point, yes, it does mean that we don't have specifics built in our routine to make sure that we are building our relationship. It does identify that, and I am with you on that.
Because we could
Can,
pray
can,
together, we
can
could
can
read
I
together, we
can I
Mhm.
could
end the
set aside date nights, and it ain't got to be every week. Let's be realistic.
can I
Mhm.
But
end this can I end the stale debate real quick?
End coach. End the
go
stale,
ahead,
the
stay
stale
on it.
debate.
People who don't understand relationships go through stale phases. That's it.
There you go. All right. Appreciate it, Robin. Hope you liked our commentary and our perspectives on all of those. We're going to slide over to Miss Queen V's question. Miss Queen V asks, does the lack of silence mean that there is a communication gap that has gotten worse over the years? Does the lack of silence mean that there is a communication gap that has gotten worse over the years?
I think she means the silence.
Yeah, that's how I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she meant the silence. Does the silent mean that there's a communication gap that has gotten worse over the years? That's
Okay.
possible.
It's possible, and also possible that one person just don't know how to communicate or articulate, so they just go silent by default.
They got some internal trauma within them that they never resolved.
Mhm.
Could be they have a lot of distractions going on in their life, and they prefer to deal with the distractions than they do dealing with their mate. It's a number of different things that could exist.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes people just like, man, I ain't trying to deal with it no more. I just keep my mouth shut. It's better. I don't know, a whole bunch of different reasons, but
That comes from learned behavior.
it
Like,
does. I can't deny that.
yeah, that's not just because. Sometimes that's because I came and I talked to you, and I know how you handled the last time I opened up to how something bothered me, and now I handle how I address it differently.
Mm,
That's dangerous. That's a dangerous place
yeah.
because I'm one step away from checking out after that.
Definitely appreciate those questions. Appreciate all you gentlemen's perspectives on those questions as well. If you have just joining in, go ahead and hit that like button. Thank you for being here. And again, if I missed anybody by name, I appreciate you being here. I see Charlotte Jordan here. Thank you for being here. And I see Lisa Keys. I don't know if I mentioned her or not, but and then I think I see a quiet storm in there. So appreciate everybody being here. The next question on the board is what? Where are we at right now? We was on that one for a minute. Okay, here's the next question. What tends to go unspoken between people even when it's important? It don't necessarily have to be tens. You can just give me an example of something that can go unspoken between people even when it's important.
The future. I think that's one of the most important things that people in relationship don't talk about. They don't talk about the future. And because you don't talk about the future, you don't have a vision. And because you don't have a vision, you don't have a direction. Therefore, you're just existing in time and space. And you're just dealing with day by day as it comes, as opposed to plotting a course to what this relationship is all about. So I think one of the most important things is the future.
Man, I love your answer. I love your answer because no matter what I say, it all lines in it, whether it's a pretext or post. Like it all leads right there. So I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, that's kind of I guess where I was going to go because I was going to say people tend not to speak when they check out. Before the breakup, there's been a checkout for a while. It may be situational. It might be I saw this, I can't do it, it's over. I get that, But for a lot of times, I've been sitting on this thought, especially, and I can only speak from a man's. I believe, especially if it's the man that initiates a breakup, it's calculated. It's not just we thought about it yesterday because it's one thing hurt our feelings. You know, we've calculated this and we've dealt with some of the things, and so I think if it goes unspoken because sometimes I made up my mind and I don't want you to fight your case. I'm just planning the move before I come and let you know. Because by the time I let you know, we're already out the door.
Yeah, I can rock with both of those. I wanted to go with finances, and this is definitely, and it's just, I know people who are in and have been in long-term relationships. And this is more of a specific to a coach's future. I know people who have been in long-term relationships, been married, been together a long time, and they have no idea what the other one is doing in their each other's accounts. And I asked a question one time to one of these people, and I said, because one of the things that we both know, one of these people, is that they have a spouse or their wife likes to spend, right? And he's more of a saver, but they have separate everything. And he said, well, my wife always spending, so we got to have everything separate because I can't be broke or be in the poorhouse, blah, blah, blah. We already know that there's an underlying whatever behind this, but we're not talking about that right now. But we're talking about the future piece. So I'll say, okay, so what's going to happen in the future when you're 60 or 62, 67, whatever, and you're ready to retire and your wife is ready to retire? You have money, retirement, pension saved up, and she don't have anything because she spent all of hers, you know, and it's time to have that conversation, and you can get off and you can retire, but she can't. So now you wanted to travel and do all these different things, but now she's stuck working for the next whatever years because she never thought about the finances in the future. And I think the light bulb came on, but I just say, that's the specifics, to Coach's point in talking about the future. And that was just one example, of some conversations I've had with people when they don't have conversations about things, or they have their finances separated, which do whatever you want to do. But are those things that you have in place, are they going to be, how are they going to affect you in the future? Just like Coach said. So for me, it was more specific. The finances is something that tends to go unspoken between people, even though they're important. Anything for that? Y'all good on that one? Boom. Let's do it. They liked it. Yeah. I'm like, bro, what you gonna do?
I'm
Hey,
just saying it's all inclusive.
yeah, all inclusive. Yep. Next one, we rolling. Shoot. How do routines or patterns influence the direction of a relationship? Direction a relationship takes over time. How do routines and patterns influence the direction of a relationship? The direction a relationship takes over time. I don't know why this looks weird to me.
I think if I'm understanding the question right, I think that's kind of where I was alluding to. Right?
Yeah.
Like what are our, because let's be honest, if we're both working, especially people call themselves power couples because they both got high pace, high demand jobs, right? Because it's high paying, so they consider it power couple, right? Okay, good. But do we have routines in place to make sure we don't miss each other in the process? Because if we wake up, we both on the hustle and bustle to get out the door, then we both in the house, we're in a rush to try to get ourselves settled because we got in late or whatever the case may be. Both of us too tired to go to cook, so we go get something quick, fast food, come in the house, we eat, we lay down, watch TV, and pass out together. But we never talked. We never had that intimate moment that we should have, right? We never say, "Hey, how was your day?" And let's be honest, for most men, we exit. We really want to talk about something else, but we know something happened that you wanted to talk about. So what does our routine look like? Or do we start our day off early enough for us to take a walk together, or for us to pray together, for us to do our daily devotional? Can we do that together? But I know people that say, nope, I got to do my own prayers and stuff separately. I got to have this separate. I got to have that separate. Well, when I'm talking about routines, because you can have whatever routines and patterns you have, but I'm talking about the things that involve us being together, being us, not your hair routine, your workout routine. What routine allows us to sit together?
This
The
is
hair routine.
the very opposite of what I said. Well, I'm sorry, not the opposite. The work that is done according to what I just got finished saying. When I said we don't talk about the future, therefore our routines and our patterns aren't focused at the future that we could have talked about. So in essence, our routines and our patterns now decide our future.
Yeah, I agree with that. I ain't got nothing else to add to that one. So with that being said, we're going to jump into a poll and then we're going to do a versus segment. So the next poll is this. Oh, where is it at? Oh, there we go. Did somebody put it up? Did I hit it? I don't know. It didn't go up.
I don't see
Oh,
it.
maybe I had to stop the other one.
Did you end? Yeah, about to ask. Did you end the
Yeah.
first?
Okay, there we go. Bam. Okay. Which impacts a relationship more over time? What is said, what is not said, what is assumed, or it depends. So that is the poll. And what we're going to do while everybody is answering that poll over here in the chat, we are going to go to the next question. The next question, well, actually, what we're going to do is a versus segment. So what we do, we're going to compare two different things, and then there's something else there's a question that comes along behind it, and these gentlemen are just going to say whatever their thoughts are about this. We got about, I think, 7 or 8 of them, right? So the first one is this: comfort versus effort. Does comforting strengthen a relationship or slowly reduce the effort that keeps it alive?
Yes.
How does this work again?
Yeah, that's what
We just compare, just versus. Hold on, I got something in my mouth.
Do they
Just
have to be? Do they have to be oppositions? Can
no.
my effort make us more comfortable?
Yeah,
I'm just,
however you want to, absolutely.
Right. Right.
But I guess if we're saying, which one, not necessarily which one you want to highlight first, which one is more important, but if we talking about this versus this, it don't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Just comparing.
So can I answer it like this? Young effort, right? When we're young, well, even if our ages are old, but our relationship is young, it takes effort to get to the comfort stage. So, but I, but not pushing down comfort. But if we've been together for some time, eventually there got to be some time of there got to be some moments of comfort in there. That's
Mhm.
how I answer it.
I guess
would
even if you was to strip away the second part of it, you're talking about a relationship, or would you be more focused on the comfort of the relationship, or would you be more focused on the effort in a relationship? You know what I'm saying? So I got a hair in my mouth. It won't
I
come out.
think, you know, thank you for sharing that.
I meant to
Everybody
hit my
know,
I
mic.
try to hold myself.
hey,
I
it's a
try
I meant to hit my
whole
mic.
bunch of it's a whole bunch of stuff being spoken on the other side of this camera. I know they talking. But anyway, yeah. I think I like where Gaddy went just now with the effort in my younger years. But I think the effort in my younger years allows me not to seek comfort. Therefore, now the way effort and comfort work together is that every time I find myself wanting to become comfortable, I exert effort to move outside of that comfort. Yes, even in relationship.
Next one. Communication versus assumption. Is it more about what's actually said or what's assumed without being said?
Both.
You can do
Yeah.
both.
I mean,
Just
my assumptions drive my communication.
mhm.
So I think it's not just about what is said, it's also about what is not said. I always say, I'm listening keenly to what you say, but I'm also focused on what you're not saying as well.
Mhm.
Because both of them go hand in hand. And I think a lot of times we believe assumptions are bad. Assumptions are not bad. I think when assumptions are substantiated, they're really good. They really allow me to predict something that can potentially happen. So I think if we rework that notion that assumptions are bad, and what I don't do is make assumptions about another person, but I can make an assumption for the other person in a direction of in on their behalf in a direction of where they want to go, right? And then that way I can help them to get there. That's totally different than making an assumption about a person's behavior because, oh, well, you didn't answer your phone when I called you at 5 o'clock. I assume you was out there doing something. No, that's
Yeah.
low level thinking. That's low level thinking. That's toxicity. That's you having unresolved trauma that you brought into another situation. Or maybe maybe something that happened in this situation that y'all didn't talk about and got to the point of resolving that. But your internal conflict is still your responsibility and you don't get to project it on another person. So I think
Mhm.
assumptions and communication go hand in hand. And when we understand assumptions, it'll help us better understand the way we communicate. Therefore, if we keep reworking our assumptions at a higher level, we get to the point of communicating better.
Right. I think you just talked about how buzzwords work. Right. Um, the word assumption. I'll use the word assumption instead of using the word instead of using words like pre-plan or thought out. Right. And so we'll say assumption because mama used to tell us an assumption will make it out of you. Yeah. So, but so we'll look at it from that perspective. But when we'll say a woman won't use the word assumption towards a woman, they'll use the word intuition. And men will say planning, but we'll use assumption when talking about one another. Right. So I think that's kind of how buzzwords work. So I'm siding with Coach, but that was my add on to what he said.
Okay. All right. The next one is time together versus quality of presence. Does simply spending time together matter, or is it about how present you are in that time?
I go first. Yes. Right. Because No, for real.
Mm.
Quality of the time that we spend together is important, right? But it is as important at times that that we're just spending time together, right? Some, hey, maybe we had a real busy week. Now we 40, 50, 60 years old. We finna go out and try to do something or try to plan something. Hey, can we just sit up here up underneath each other and watch TV? And watch a couple episodes of whatever our show is. Like we should have a show that we watch together. I don't watch this unless she's with me, right? That's a way of making sure we got that time. We spend that decompression time together, right? Hey, let's watch something. Let's just sit up, put your feet on my lap. Why we gotta always have something extra added to it? So I don't think but then I guess that's also your interpretation of quality. So
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think if we focus on quality over quantity, then the time that we spend together matters. But I think a lot of times most people want to focus on quantity time, thinking that quantity equals quality. Because in reality, in your mind, the more time they spend with me, the less time they're out there. So again, low level thinking still. Quantity over quality. I'm sorry, quality over quantity. Therefore, the time we spend together matters.
Mm. Yeah, I like how you wrote it together. And I want to say something, but since you did that, I'm just like, no. But that was a good one. Honesty versus harmony. This gonna be another one of those. Can you have
Yes.
can you have harmony without honesty? Is it better to be
Uh,
completely honest or to protect the peace in certain moments?
no, I think honesty is harmony.
Mm-hmm.
I think we believe harmony is free of tension, and that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
We can be in harmony even if my honesty creates tension. Now it has now revealed something that could be a stumbling block in the relationship. So now we have an opportunity if we know how to communicate, especially if you know how to communicate with it about the thing that my honesty has revealed in you, we have an opportunity for harmony to grow. But I think a lot of times, especially in this day and age, and especially in the era where one party is projected as the emotional subject matter experts, and the other party are just projected as emotionally ignorant. I think we believe that drama free equals honesty. That's not true. Only thing it's doing is prolonging the time for the inevitable to actually happen. And then when the inevitable actually happen and drama presents itself, it becomes chaos.
Mm.
But harmony, just because tension happened, it's not that harmony left the room. If tension happens, there's an opportunity for harmony to actually grow in that moment. So that's just how I see it.
I like that. I
Mm-hmm.
like that. I mean, just for the sake of the definitions of the words, right? I would have to say both. Like we're going, and I like what Coach did there because we got to see how do they walk together, right? And you asked it, I think, when in bringing it up, well, you say, can we have harmony without honesty? Now, don't get me wrong. We all know that family. If it wasn't ours, that guy had that big mama that passed away with her secrets that only one or two granddaughters knew, right? And or Papa who got buried with his secrets, right? We know that, right? Um, but is that harmony or is that deceit? Because 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 the problem didn't rise up or the truth didn't rise up until after I passed away. Don't mean we was in harmony. It means I was operating in deception. I think that becomes some of the strongholds we have when we believe something that is true and everyone else is seeing it wrong. Half the problem we think that they're looking at it through the lens of their deception, not through the lens of what's true. And so I look at it like that. Yes, it might have seemed peaceful at the moment, but it was definitely lack of harmony at the time.
Can
Okay.
I add one
Yeah.
more piece?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Peace don't need protecting.
Mm,
Can you say that again? I don't think they heard you all the way in the back.
Peace,
mm.
peace does not need protecting. Again, what we're talking about is my assumption that as long as drama doesn't exist, all is well. Peace is not something that I own. Peace is a place in which I exist. If the right thing is happening within me, and the relationship is supposed to be rooted in peace as long as it's rooted in the thing that governs peace. I don't have to protect peace. Peace protects itself based upon this governing authority. So I just want to add that in there as well.
I'm definitely glad you did. We're gonna hit one more of these verses, and then we're gonna shift down to another question. So, whichever one you want to throw up there. All right, here we go. Consistency versus spontaneity. Does consistency build stability, or does spontaneity keep things from becoming routine? I'll
So,
start with this one
so
because
I'll start.
go
Oh,
ahead,
you
go
gonna
ahead, go
start?
ahead.
My bad. Go ahead.
Only because I think for me this is very. I'm going with consistency all day long. I'm just letting you know that right now. The consistency builds stability. Because here's my thing. I think it also depends on the relationship, right? In my case, not in my case, but I've seen oftentimes where things look like spontaneity and it's just lack of planning. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I know we speak in verses and stuff like this, and it probably a little bit of both, but I'm definitely going to lean towards more of that consistency what helps build stability. I can't really say that spontaneity keeps things from becoming routine because some people don't really care about spontaneity. But what do you guys think?
I don't necessarily believe spontaneity keeps things from becoming routine. I think if everything you do is fly off the hip, right? That's different, right? But I think the purpose of spontaneity is to break up the monotony of what we call consistency. Sometimes, right? And I'm talking, and for most of the night, I'm talking from the aspect of man and woman, right? Because I think that's easy for us to envision automatically when we speak. But speaking from that aspect, it it can get boring on both sides. Like as a man, sometimes it's not boring to be routine because we know what's coming, right? We don't have no fear of the unknowns because we have already planned things out. We know what routes we take home. We know what we do. We move on this system because we feel like we are in control in this system, right? We feel like we got things handled as long as we operate this way. But spontaneity sometimes steps in to break up the monotony, so we can say, "Hey, let's switch it up. Let's do something. Hey, instead of going home, let's stop at such and such and grab some food. Hey, you feel like catching a movie tonight? Something, right?
Do you like spontaneity when you don't work out in your favor? Like we say, hey, babe, I know you've been at work all day long. You mind stopping at the grocery store, pick up a few things when you tired and you ready to come home? You okay with spontaneity when it don't work?
If it,
You see
if
what
it's
I'm saying?
if that isn't unless that becomes the consistency.
See, yeah, I get that part too. What you got, coach?
You ask me a question, I get the liberty to answer. So, do you mind? Yes, I mind. I'm coming home. Sorry.
There
Um.
you go. I'm coming home.
So,
Yeah.
but again, one of the biggest issues we have communication. So,
Mm.
I think just baseline with the question: does consistency build stability? Yes, but in what? Just because you're consistent does not necessarily mean you're consistently good at anything. You may be consistently bad at the thing that you're doing, or you may consistently be doing the bad thing. And unfortunately, you're building a foundation of badness in the relationship. And then a lot of times I think we believe that being spontaneous is good. No, So consistency and spontaneity, either or, it doesn't really matter what it is. It can be some consistency and some spontaneity. It can be no spontaneity, where consistency builds a level of stability and it gives you a level of predictability on what's going to happen. And predictability, believe it or not, is actually good for a human because at least they know what to expect within the scope of this relationship. But then what if I decide I'm just going to be spontaneous every day of the week? You have no idea what to expect and blah, 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 blah. And for a 21-year-old, that might be cool. But for a 51-year-old, like, no, I ain't got time for that. So I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
yeah. But to your question, yes and yes.
Yeah, I'm over spontaneity for the most. I like routine. I like structure. I like knowing what I got going on every day. I mean, I guess to Gaddy's point, a little spontaneity is okay. It's good to get a message or something from somebody saying, "Hey, man, we really like Hearts of Men podcast that last night you guys were on it." Like those things, they come out of the blue sometimes, and they do make you feel good. You know what I'm saying? But I still, like the consistency piece of it. But again, it is what it is. So what we're gonna do right now, we are quarter of the way through. I want to make sure that we leave time for the final thought. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're not there yet, but feel free. You can do the same thing on your own, and you can kind of final thought with us in about 15 minutes or so. And to pretty much the final, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. So the question or let me pause for a minute. So the topic for tonight is 7 things killing your relationship that nobody warns you about. So what we're going to do at the end for our final thought, we're going to give you guys our list of our 7 things that if we had to identify our 7 things or just 7 things in general that you may benefit from. They don't necessarily have to be necessarily personal to us, but just maybe 7 things that we're going to give you guys from each of us that are 7 things killing our relationship that no one warns you about. So back up to the question before we get there. Did we ever get to that? We didn't get to the poll. Can we get to that poll real quick? The responses, because I forgot all about it. Not forgot all about it, but I did. Excuse me. So based on our poll, excuse me, what impacts a relationship more over time? Most people said what is assumed. We had a couple people, and the same amount of people said what is not said, and it depends. So no one said which impacts a relationship more over time. No one said what is said. So just a poll. I ain't gonna dive into it. We're gonna go to the questions unless y'all want to. No, let's go to the questions. All right. First question. The next question is what makes I'm sorry. What makes it difficult to recognize when something in a relationship is changing?
I think sometimes we get caught up in our own routines that we don't realize that something in our routine may be hurting the other person. Because I'm moving how I want to move, I'm doing what I want to do, but this is working for me. I think so. When we talk about making it difficult to recognize when I'm in that space, right? Because for whatever reason, I feel like in order, and I don't know if we've all been there, but I've been there too. I feel like I have to create this routine for myself to allow myself to exist mentally in my current situation. And instead of speaking about it, I created routines to maneuver me around the issue, right? And because of that, my mind and my focus was on keeping this routine that I didn't realize the effect that it was having on the other person. It caused me, I ended up icing out in the relationship to focus on this new routine because I didn't want to be frustrated. I didn't want to be aggravated about these things. And they may have been things that I talked about in the past, brought up, had a conversation about, but But because I felt like the other person had an unwillingness to change, I started moving differently. And so for me, it became harder to realize until things got worse that it was going bad. If
The answer to the question is me. What makes it difficult to recognize when something in my relationship is changing? Me. Because I'm not focused on being in a relationship. I'm focused on my interpretation of relationship. I'm focused on what it is I want, as opposed to understanding where we come together and are supposed to be one. Especially if we're talking about a husband and wife. If we're talking about in the space of just regular friendship, again, what is the thing that bring you guys together? Do you no longer have those joint values that you kind of that existed in the beginning? Did those values dissipate? What happened? So, what makes it difficult to recognize when something in the relationship is changing? Me. Because regardless of what I see, I'm forever hopeful with what I got in my head, not necessarily reading the environment, identifying reality based upon the evidence that is being present.
I like both of those. I'm going to go with ignorance. And I mean that in the sense that sometimes we don't know what we just don't know. I remember, in some relationships and stuff like that, it was it was very challenging to recognize certain things because I just didn't know. I got married I have my first child at 19 and I was married at 20. So life hadn't taught me enough stuff in order for me to be able to recognize when certain things in a relationship is changing. Again, I kind of spoke on earlier, when I talked about certain things I just thought was just part of the relationship. This is just how it is. You're supposed to go through this. You deal with this, you're supposed to put up with this, and sometimes that information came from maybe things that we saw growing up from our parents, and coach mentioned before, and I got this from him, a lot of times we parent initially how we were parented because that's all we know. And sometimes I believe when it comes to relationships, in many cases, we sometimes look up north as well and look at our parents' relationship and maybe how they communicated and how they work together in their relationship. So I think that, what I mean, my response to this is that ignorance and immaturity and youth sometimes um, is the reason why it's difficult to recognize when something in a relationship is changing. We got one more question, then we're going to jump into our final thoughts, folks, for this evening. The next question is, looking back, what are some things people often realize later that they didn't see at the time? Or didn't want to see?
I think I kind of answered it. I
Mhm.
think so. When you look at how some things change and you're trying to hold on to it because you're stuck with your image of what the relationship is supposed to be, if and when the relationship ends at a later point in time, you start doing some little self reflection and you realize that the signs were always there. You just didn't see it. But then when you mature, you stop looking at the signs of the other person. You start looking at your own self and recognize that there is no space in relationship where one party is innocent. Period. I don't care who you are. I got it. They may have done 99, but you got to own your 1%. And if I'm still talking about their 99, that means I haven't reached the level of maturity to own my one yet. And again, that's the thing there. So layers of self-reflection are being revealed when I look back. I realized the signs was always there. I didn't see it. I rejected it. Then eventually I got to the part where I realized that I actually placated it. Anything that happens in the environment, trust me, I do understand. And there are some great role players out there that play their part real well. But anything that presents itself at a later point in time in the relationship, it revealed itself to you earlier during the honeymoon stage. You just act like you didn't see it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm I'm not gonna say equipped to answer the question because I was gonna really just say pretty much the same thing. It's the thing. If there's anything that we did not realize at the time, it was us. If there is something that I didn't notice about her that were changes or whatever, that she was unhappy or whatever the case may be, that was because I was self-indulged in this relationship. I was focused on what I wanted all the time. So that the answer is still me at the end of the day. Because I think we are selfish enough creatures that we normally never miss when somebody else is unhappy with what we're doing. Because I want to know why you're not happy with what I did, because I'm happy with it. Right. And that's typically, and I'm being honest, it sounds a little funny, but I'm being honest. Like, that's how a lot of us come to these conversations. And why you got an attitude with what I did? Because I did it. It's not really, we're really not concerned about why it bothers you. We're just concerned with why it bothers you because I did it. That's really the problem. Why am I the problem? All right. And so we already starting these conversations on the negative side of things because we're looking at it to come defend our actions versus understand our partner. So if there's anything we didn't notice, it was ourselves.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question going around and around and around, and I can't help but to, kind of like what you guys said, point the finger back in myself. But then again, and with that, there's a whole bunch of different tentacles that we can spin off of, and break them down even more. But again, it seems like everything seems like it comes full circle and reports right back to us. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm thinking about a whole different. I'm like this and this and this, but it's like everything is like at the end of the day, it's me. Like I don't know how to pick. Um, I didn't know about this. I was immature. I didn't know this. So to you guys' point, it seems like I'm definitely been trying to look for an answer as you guys were speaking that brought it back to something else other than myself, when it comes to the relationship, but I can't really didn't come up with anything. So maybe I just missed it. So but what we're gonna do, let's do our before we do our final thoughts, gentlemen, let's do all of our announcements or anything like that that we may have for the week when it comes to shows, content, where any of those things. So when is the next time? There we go. Tomorrow morning, reframing images of relationships. Communication is key. Doesn't work here. Why? Saturday, April 25th. That's tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. on YouTube. Anything else? Coach's Corner on Tuesday. Anything this Sunday? Nothing this Sunday. There we go. Sunday brunch with the Mindset Coach, ladies and gentlemen, on Tickety Talk, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you can, go ahead, click that link and join Coach. And see y'all there on Sunday, 11:30. Bible study, Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Please join the community for a God-inspired, spirit-led study. There's the link right there too. So join over there as well. There's 3 different links that you guys have. So if you miss them, go back, rewind it, scan it. I know there used to be a code up here. It ain't up here today. Last but not least, folks, we are going to get into our final thoughts. I think that's it. Yep, final thoughts.
Man, I've really enjoyed this conversation. As y'all can see me looking, I was trying to come up with my 7th. But we were asked if I had to identify my own 7 things, just from my perspective, what would them 7 things be? The first thing is selfishness. Then we go into a lot of relationships thinking about what we can benefit from the relationship instead of looking at how we can be a benefit to it. Unarticulated expectations. Some of them may sound similar, but they're similar, but they're not the same. Unarticulated expectations. I don't think we do enough premarital sit downs, conversation, counseling, right? So we could talk about things. I remember a couple, one of my favorite, they're also my good friends, but a couple I married back in Hawaii. We sat down and did marriage counseling, just jokingly. And if they watch this, they're gonna laugh. Uh, but jokingly, I asked them a question about, hey, what does your monthly grocery budget looks like, right? Something as simple as that can cause discord. And they didn't believe it. I was like, what? No. So I asked, he said about $110. She said, man, I eat $110 of groceries by myself in 2 weeks. And so together, right? That so we you have these expectations of, oh, we what if nobody said nothing? He's like, what, we go in the grocery store, this is what we need to spend. That's an argument that they could have had. Unrealistic boundaries, right? I think a lot of times too is it goes back to somebody said, I don't know how to pick, right? Sometimes our boundaries we set are not realistic for the people we choose. Sometimes they're realistic to us based upon our traumas or what we see or what we want and what we desire. But are they realistic to the person that you chose as well? That matters. And if not, if those boundaries are non-negotiable, why are we even playing with this? Because we're creating trauma for another person later, trying to make them dance within boundaries they can't dance within. When we focus on everybody else's responsibilities instead of our responsibilities, right? I'm focused on a real woman would do this, a real woman should do that, a real woman should do this, but I should be focused on what a real man should do. And I should have been focused on choosing a real woman when it was time to choose. And so that's my fault again. Then outside distraction, individual values. Someone talked about values earlier. I do believe that we need to have joint values. We need to be able to see through the same lens, because that's gonna play a part in how we raise children in the future, and how our family operates, what we do and don't do as individuals when we're not together, how we represent this household. And I tell you, I had to struggle with picking my seventh one. So many things was flying through my head. But I'm a steal something from Coach, something that he said. But believing that we can control peace. I think that'll be that I'm gonna use that for my seventh. Thinking you can control or protect peace. Right. Only thing you could do is operate within the bounds in which the peace giver has given us, and peace shall be added unto us. Because we live in a world of chaos. There's nothing that we can do that involves peace. Right? We just learn how to operate in this dark world, and the peace giver will give peace. He says, my peace I give unto you. But that's my final thoughts.
Okay, my final thought for this evening is going to be, like we said, our 7 things that we believe are killing our relationship that no one warns you about. So I got my 7 down here. So my first one is a lack of reflection, right? So that pretty much I'm thinking about how am I going back and looking at how I'm showing up to the relationship? Am I doing what I need to do on my end to make sure that I'm upholding my end of the bargain when it comes to the relationship? The next thing that no one warns us about is the complacency, and this may be hit or miss for some people depending on their relationship. But for me, I don't think that that's something that people are really that people really share. Now maybe if you go to marriage counseling or something like that, you may talk about it, or maybe you may have certain things built into your routine in your relationship that y'all don't ever get to a place of complacency in the relationship. But again, my number 2 was complacency. Number 3 was something that was brought up number 1 first thing when we started the show, and that was the first word of the what Coach pretty much said, and that was communication. So my number 3 was the differences in communication styles. Number 4 is unspoken expectations. You should know how to love me. my love language is this, yada yada yada, you know. So when someone says that their love language is this, then they're expecting to be treated a certain type of way. And if you've been on this platform for any amount of time, you already know kind of what coach's thoughts are when it comes to low love languages. So the number 4 was unspoken expectations. Number 5 is keeping score. Sometimes no one tells you that you may be in a relationship with somebody and that person's keeping score, or you may be the one who's keeping score. You know, well, I gave you 3 back massages and you only gave me 1. You know what I'm saying? Now you keeping score and it's just not good. So again, keeping score was number 5. Number 6 is avoidance with the hard things. You know, when there's conversations that need to be had, when there are failures in the relationships or setbacks, people hiding money, all of these different things that you hear about in relationships, or you may have mismanaged some funds on your end, but you don't want to bring those things up in the conversation. So again, avoidance with the hard things or the hard conversations. And then the number 7 is you may have to make a decision to say no, you know, and to walk away. You know, no one, I don't think people, especially like more so back in my day, it was always stay till the end. You know, there wasn't a lot of conversation about, hey, at some point the relationship may get to a place where you have to walk away. So again, my 7 are lack of reflection, complacency, differences in communication styles, unspoken expectations, keeping score, avoidance of the hard things in the relationships, and that you may have to make a decision that you may or may not want to do it. Make a decision to say no as well. So again, that's my final thought and my 7 things that I believe kill relationships that no one warned you about.
All right. What are my 7 things? Well, I want to start off with something that I think um, is more prominent than we really believe, and that is the perceived safety of shared trauma. And what does that mean? That means that a lot of times we exist in relationship where we have like shared unwanted experiences, which ultimately um, they paradoxically discourage vulnerability, and unfortunately, um, we don't ever move beyond the trauma itself. And a lot of times it makes us end up masking the fact that the unprocessed collective pain often leaks into some sort of hypervigilance, also leaks into some type of distrust. And lastly, it kind of helps us to get to the point to where we end up having displaced anger. So that's, my number 1. My number 2 is revolution over evolution. And what does that mean? That means that we can be passionate, um, we can have kind of like a passionate dedication to a particular cause. But unfortunately, even though it's vital, it can accidentally consume emotional bandwidth. And unfortunately, we don't have that bandwidth for our partner because it's all tied up into that thing. Number 3 is the soft life craving crushing the relational resiliency. And a lot of times the desire for frictionless soft life, if you will, I'm doing my hands like Donald Trump, frictionless soft life. It kind of glamorizes walking away from relational discomfort. Then the next one is performance that undermines foundational trust. Toxic expressions place relationships in a chokehold, specifically teaching Black men that vulnerability equals failure. And unfortunately, it gets us to the point to where we end up creating relationships where displayed fortitude masks profound loneliness. Next is what I tend to call hyper independence. That should be pretty much self explanatory. We get consumed with, getting a bag and climbing the corporate ladder and, doing all these things, being relevant in our community, but we end up doing it to such a degree that we do it by ourselves. There is no unity in those things. And the unfortunate part of it is that it kind of slowly eats away at the potential of a great relationship simply because we're trying to establish our own individual identity. One of my favorites is beware of manipulation. That's right. So, what is manipulation? It is the combination of an illusion, which is the environment that I create myself, and then manipulation, where I take you and place you in that environment, and now I create the rules in that environment, and I hold you hostage to that particular rule, to those rules. Here is the issue: you will spend the rest of your life trying to make me happy in the environment that I created because I make the rules. And based upon what I perceive as happiness today or tomorrow, those rules will change. And unfortunately, you won't know it until you violate them. And then the last one is it's kind of like the empathy desert, which is masquerading as a shared struggle. We assume that shared racial identity guarantees mutual understanding. That is a false interpretation of reality, and unfortunately, that'll hold us hostage um, just just to that alone. So again, I say my seven: the perceived safety of shared trauma, evolution over evolution, the soft life craving which crushes relational resiliency, performance that undermines foundational trust, hyper independence, beware of manipulation, and last but not least, the empathy desert masquerading as shared struggle. And those are my final thoughts.
See, I learned a new word tonight, folks. Manipulation. That was my
Manipulation.
favorite one. And then I like the
Hold on,
the context behind it.
wait, hold on, wait. Before y'all get too excited, that's the next tenderness. Don't be running away with it just yet. That's the next tendernism. That's all I want y'all to understand.
Okay, all right. I'll leave it
Let's
alone,
lock that in then.
bro. Yeah, I like. I'm glad you said something because I sure was about to make it my next Facebook post. Hashtag just leave it at that. I thought it was already a word. I thought you was just regurgitating something.
I said, let's talk about this in the back.
Yeah. I just like the word and I like the context and what it means. And it was freaking spot on. You know what I mean? Mixing them two words together and bro. Moving right along. We've already kept y'all 7 minutes past the time. So we want to be definitely can you repost out shows? There was a comment Lisa Keith said in the chat. Just make sure. I don't know if it's something you need to address now and for everybody or not.
I don't know if she's talking about the reframing of the images of relationships.
Oh, repost all the shows and leave them up. Yeah, we flat through them real quick. So with that being said, folks, while she's going through those, we're wrapping up. Definitely appreciate everybody for being here. It's a little we kept y'all a little bit past the time. Definitely apologize for that. Want to make sure we got everything in, especially those 7 things. If you're watching this, if you missed all of those, it's a really good idea to go back and then go and get all of those different things, write them down, put them on a sticky note, put them on your mirror or something like that, and see if you can relate to any of those things. Again, all of the different broadcasts that's going to be going on over the next week or so are here. So tune in again the next episode next Friday night. We'll see y'all again for another Hearts of Men podcast. And all of the other shows in between. Until next time, we will see y'all. We are out.